What's up, Jets fans? Welcome to the latest edition of Jets Latest, where you get the latest on the Jets, Jets. I'm your host, the spitting statistician, Dane Martinez, and we've got a brand new week and a lot to discuss here. Remember, last week, we did make a free agent signing, bringing in Josh Reynolds, who had spent time with Moji and the Denver Broncos, with Aaron Glenn and the Detroit Lions to kind of fortify that wide receiver position. I still do think they're going to add a wideout in the draft, though just not in the first round, and really round out that wide receiver room, much the same way that this new regime has been adding competition and young talent across the board. But now we look to the NFL draft. This week we turn the calendars to April, and as you know, if you've been subscribed, and thanks to everybody who has so far subscribed to Jets Latest, you know that I believe we are going to not necessarily take a shiny new toy. Don't believe in the rumors around Jackson Dart being a reach at 7, or even Tet McMillan, or I think even the Penn State tight end Tyler Warren. I think the right choice, what this new regime is going to do, is go at offensive tackle in round 1. That's because they haven't really spent money getting a high-end starting right tackle in free agency. I think they are leaving that hole open because that's what they are targeting in the draft. I have continued to talk about Membu from Missouri and Will Campbell from LSU, and guess what? It is clear that those two tackles are a tier above everybody else, and you can see them in the odds boards. There are draft odds right now across sports books across the country where they ask you who will be the top offensive lineman drafted. Armand Membu out of Missouri is the favorite, okay, at minus 165. Will Campbell is the second choice at plus 130. There is no other offensive lineman that has odds of more than 10 to 1. So it is clear that these two guys are the top offensive linemen in the draft. And I think that's good that there is not one, but two of them. I've been saying, mock drafts have been saying that, in the top 6 picks ahead of the New York Jets, we're probably going to get 2 quarterbacks, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. There's the two-way stud Heisman Trophy winner Travis Hunter. There is a big-time pass rusher out of Penn State named Abdul Carter. That is 4, okay? Then most mocks have guys like Mason Graham, the defensive lineman out of Michigan, right? Now that's 5. If those 5 guys go in before the Jets, we will be guaranteed to get one of these 2 offensive linemen who are known as head and shoulders above the rest and can be bookends for the green and white for the better part of a decade. There's rumors of guys like Ashton Genty going at 6, guys like Tet McMillan being a wideout. Maybe someone's trading up for a quarterback or something like that. But it makes me feel good that there are 2 big-time offensive linemen, and the way the draft board should fall, it looks like we are going to get one of those 2, and it is clear that those 2 guys are the top offensive lineman prospects. Forget all the noise that you're going to hear. The Jets can stay at 7 and get Membu or get Campbell, and that would be a great get for this Jets team to really solidify what is a good interior offensive line and has Olu Fashanu coming back in his second year. The second thing I want to talk to you about, guys, is it sounds interesting. I say all the time that Glenn and Moji are building a new culture, right? Well, check it out. Here's yet another player that really speaks to having bought in on the vibe creating by Aaron Glenn, and it's one of our new free agent signings, Brandon Stevens, in the secondary. Check this out. He says, "It's a blessing to be here. It just felt right in my spirit, and I felt like I was supposed to be a Jet. Coach Glenn expressed how much he loved my game and appreciates my game and how he can help not only me, but the team take it to the next level. I'm excited to wear the green and white out there and just make plays that make this city kind of proud and give them what they deserve." I think we have been hearing that all across the board, right? You heard Justin Fields talk about Coach Glenn was really a big part of why he was here as well. And it is starting to catch hold. I really believe that they're doing it this patient way, bringing in, young kids at all of the position groups that have talent, that have flash, and will grow together. That's what I have been telling you about Jets Latest. It's not sexy. It doesn't sound big, but let me tell you something else, okay? It is a new way across the NFL. I told you Aaron Glenn saw Dan Campbell do this in Detroit. Dan Campbell used to play for the Detroit Lions. It took a little bit of time. He built that team the same way, and now they are a contender, a true contender in the NFC. It's happened also in Houston, where DeMeco Ryans, as the head coach, used to play for the Houston Texans. In an influx of young talent. Remember how they went in the draft and got Will Anderson to anchor that defense, Darryl Stingley Jr. as a top draft pick, CJ Stroud, their young quarterback, right? And they are growing from the ground up, building a team, building a culture. Again, with a head coach that played for that franchise. With the Chargers, Jim Harbaugh played for that franchise, and you can see them doing the same thing, building around youth. You got Vrabel in New England, who used to be a coach for that franchise, and they are now doing the same thing around Drake May at quarterback. It is not a sexy approach. It is not something that you just drop a big name free agent and hope that that takes you to the next level. But Aaron Glenn and the Jets are now another team with this new model. Bring in a coach that has pride for the franchise because he played there himself and kind of wants to do it in the way that they didn't necessarily get to do it. Think about it. When DeMeco Ryans was in Houston, they weren't good. When Dan Campbell was in Detroit, they weren't good. When Aaron Glenn was with the Jets, they weren't good. They are knowing what the pitfalls are to kind of avoid, and they are doing it differently. That is the new culture of the Jets, and I really think if you give them patience, this is building in the right way. Are they going to be 11-6 or 10-7 and a playoff threat? Not unless Justin Fields jumps off the page this year, okay? But if you give them patience, this new vibe around Aaron Glenn and the way they are building this team and this culture is in fact real. Here's the last thing I want to tell you. Let's now, as we go into April, do a little reset of where they are on the salary cap, okay? The Jets have $20.5 million under the cap, even after the Josh Reynolds signing, as per over the cap, okay? That is actually 19th best in the NFL, kind of in the middle of the pack. But here's two things I do want to note. They also right now have 72 players on their roster. Out of the 18 teams that have more cap space, 12 of those teams have a lot more, less players on their roster. The Jets have 72 players on their roster. So some of those guys are going to get cut and create more money for the Jets, okay? They have more on their roster to be able to create that competition. That is part of the model. So when I say that they're really 19th in the league in cap space, when you consider how many bodies, how many people they have on their roster, it is really a little bit better. And here's the other thing. I like the approach. You've seen this in free agency. It's been a ton of one-year deals as they figure it out. We'll see who sticks as we continue to grow. And the last thing for the salary cap is, remember, this still counts Allen Lazard on the roster, especially with the signing of Josh Reynolds late last week. I no longer think that Allen Lazard is going to be on that roster. I told you the wide receiver room is going to wind up being Garrett Wilson, who maybe they spend some of this extra money to re-sign, right? The two free agents they brought in that I think are profiling as good wide receiver threes, maybe one could be a two, that's Josh Reynolds and Tyler Johnson. And then last year's third round pick, Malachi Corley, right? You drop in a second or third round pick this year, that is the wide receiver room. So I do not think it includes Allen Lazard. And I think that means that his money is going to be gone, sacrificed as well, making our cap situation even better. So as we head into this next period, right, free agency is probably going to be quiet for now. You are going to hear a ton about the draft, and what you need to know here from Jets Latest is at number 7, we sit pretty to get one of the two top offensive linemen in the draft. And it is a good 2 with Membu and Campbell, and a unique year where we have the quarterbacks and a guy like Travis Hunter and a guy like Abdul Carter, Mason Graham, which could allow the literal best offensive lineman in the draft to fall to us at number 7. That's what we hope for. Don't get confused by all of these other sensationalized reports. We'll get our pass catchers, our tight end, our extra rotational defensive linemen later on in the draft, and then we will sprinkle in some veterans a little bit later on after all these cuts come during the summer and in training camp, and we have the cap space and flexibility to be able to do it. That'll do it for this edition of Jets Latest. Remember, like this video, subscribe to the channel, tell a Jet fan friend to tell a Jet fan friend, and if you want to hear more from me, the Spittin' Statistician, I am also the host of the FTN Fantasy Show over on SiriusXM channel 87, the fantasy channel, from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern in the afternoons. You can hear my take on all the fantasy, the gambling, all the news and notes, all the insights you need, not only with the Jets, not only with the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NBA, March Madness, all of it. I am there on the FTN Fantasy Show on SiriusXM. But if you just want the Jets and you just want the green and white, you have found the right place, because Jets Latest will always be here giving you the content you need. Make sure to like it. Hit me up on Twitter. Hit me up in the comments. I love engaging with everybody, and we will be back tomorrow to give you more on the green and white, because Jets Latest, we give you the latest on the Jets, Jets. We'll see you tomorrow. We out of here. Peace.